Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Dar, and we are all here, hopefully, to learn all about Introduction to Portfolio Management within the Atlassian ecosystem. And specifically, we'll be looking at Jira Line advanced roadmaps and talking briefly about a few other solutions. Like I said, my name is Brian Dar. I am a solutions architect at Expium, which is a platinum solution partner with Atlassian. I'm also a safe program consultant and a somewhat pretentiously titled Atlassian certified expert. So I guess all of that to say, hopefully I've got some stuff to share, which will help. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll have gotten some really useful information about how you can take all of this to your own business and manage your own portfolios. Let's start. So today we're going to do a bit of an introduction, and then we're going to talk all about Jira Align, which is Atlassian's premier portfolio management solution, particularly for agile at scale enterprises. And then we're going to look at its younger cousin, or I guess older cousin technically, advanced roadmaps, at least within the Atlassian family, which is a really good alternative to Jira Align and some other products if you're still growing your agile practices. And we're going to talk about the positioning and the complexity of both of these tools. We're also going to talk about a couple of other tools as well that you can also integrate within the Atlassian ecosystem, depending on your company's configuration. And then at the very end, we're going to do some Q&A. And yeah, so let's dive right in. So let's talk about portfolio management in general. So Jira, which is probably what most of you are using, is Atlassian's task tracking team focused tool. And it really is for the team level within an enterprise or at the individual contributor level. Not so much at the program level, definitely not at the portfolio level. So when you're using Jira to track all your team's work, eventually you want to start rolling that stuff up and understanding where the ship is headed and also be able to steer the ship. So when you bring in these portfolio management tools like Advanced Roadmaps, Jira Align, and some other ones, you get all these benefits here on the screen. Specifically, you get to align work to enterprise strategy because you wind up adding multiple layers of strategy on top of your team layer, and all of that rolls up and connects. You also get the ability to start visualizing capacity versus demand. You'll wind up with clearer and clear dependency management between different team tasks as well as program to program or even portfolio to portfolio dependencies. You'll wind up getting a predictable and prioritized delivery of value, which is obviously very important when you only have so many hours in a month or in a quarter to get everything done with your teams. You'll have integrated stakeholder and team visibility, two sides of the same coin there. Everybody can log in and see where we are, which is really helpful. And you wind up with fewer fire drills, which I love because everything's visible, everyone knows what's going on, and you also mitigate risk, particularly when it comes to visualizing those dependencies and capacity. Will we deliver in Q1? Now we should know a lot better if we will. All right, so we're going to talk specifically about Jira Align and Advanced Roadmaps, like I said. Jira Align is a standalone product. Advanced Roadmaps is included in Data Center and also Cloud Premium and Cloud Enterprise. And if you want to come back later on, I've got a link down here in the slides that is a pretty good Atlassian view on the difference between these products. But we're going to go over a lot of that today anyway. There are some other really good tools to help you with portfolio and work management at scale within the Atlassian ecosystem. One of the big ones is Structure. Structure provides sort of a file tree view and also has an additional add-on for a Gantt view. So if you're more of a traditional project management company, Structure is a pretty good option. In addition to that, there's also Big Picture. One of the biggest things that I see people use Big Picture for is individual capacity management. The tools that I'm going to show you today, they all do team level capacity management, which I could argue is probably the more realistic way to do capacity management. It's like once you get focused down so far with an individual contributor, it is pretty hard to keep that all up to date. The other thing that Big Picture does nicely is it has multiple other tools within its toolbox. So specifically, you can do risk management right in the tool. You can also, I'm trying to think of the other ones right now. Oh, they have a program board feature. So if you're doing program increment planning, PI planning, as per the SAFe model, they've got an add-on, or I guess specifically a module within Big Picture for that. Both of these tools, if you're using them at a large enterprise scale, they're actually two different add-ons that you have to add. So Big Picture is Big Picture plus Big Picture Enterprise, and then Structure is Structure plus Structure Gantt. They both support waterfall work as well as agile work. And if you want to know more about them, I've got contact information at the end of this webinar. You're more than welcome to reach out anytime, and we can set you up with somebody to talk about the different advantages for them for your specific business. Additionally, there is WBS Gantt chart for Jira. That is a very waterfall traditional PMP focused project management method that is built into an add-on for that. We've set that up for a couple of clients as well. And then Microsoft. I know a lot of people have different departments that are working with Microsoft Project. And it is possible through a couple of different add-ons or some custom development that our sister company has built to integrate Microsoft Project with Jira. It is not the cleanest thing in the world, but it does work. And so if you have that need, just know that either with an add-on or some custom development, you can make that happen. Obviously, Atlassian was originally built around agile project management, but so there are these different ways to get traditional PMP into the system. And there's also a lot you can do with each of these add-ons. Structure in particular, I've seen some really neat stuff that our clients have done where they've made a work breakdown structure and then reproduced it for all teams and all individuals across the company using structure. So I guess all that to say, no matter how your company is doing work, you can get a lot done with out-of-the-box Jira and a couple of add-ons. All right, but let's look at the big one, the elephant in the room, as it were, Jira Align. So Jira Align is positioned as, basically it sits on top of Jira, and it is an external application. It's a cloud-based application, although there are different deployments available. And it is built for people that are using scaled agile framework or Spotify model, but basically any sort of scaled, not necessarily safe, but any sort of scaled framework. It is a big tool, and because it connects all layers of the hierarchy within your company together, it is less flexible than Jira. I think a lot of people expect Atlassian tools to be wildly flexible, and the thing is when you're trying to connect your super long-term strategy all the way down to your development work, you have to add layers of rigidity as you go up just to make those connections work. So this is positioned for large scale enterprise clients. It connects the CEO all the way down to team members, and it is itself a full application. It was originally a competitor to the Atlassian ecosystem. Atlassian bought it a couple of years ago. They are slowly merging it. There's a lot of interesting changes coming up. If you've used it before, it's going to get a makeover pretty soon, which is really exciting. It's going to look a lot more like Atlassian, and with that is going to come a lot of nice functionality changes as well. And what we can see here actually is in this slide, there are 3 hierarchies within Jira Align, which is an interesting way to think about work that I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people just think about work item hierarchy. But on the left, we've got the time hierarchy, where we've got single sprints all the way up to PIs, all the way up to multi-year strategic snapshots. So we've got these times that nest within other time boxes. We've got the people hierarchy listed in the middle. We've got the team, the program, the optional solution layer, the budgetary portfolio layer, the enterprise strategy layer. And on the right, we have what everybody expects to see when they see a hierarchy, which is the work hierarchy. So stories rolled up to safe features, rolled up to optional capabilities, rolled up to portfolio epics, rolled up to long-term strategic goals. And then over there in purple, you see we've also got OKR trees if you are using that methodology for tracking progress against objectives with your key results. So all 3 of those hierarchies come into play within the tool. Here's another way to look at it. So down at the bottom, we've got the team layer. And just looking at the left side of the slide here, we've got the different layers of scale. So we've got the individual team. They operate within Jira. Then there's this bidirectional syncing that happens between Jira and Jira Align. This connector is very important when you're setting up Jira Align. That syncs up to the program layer, which is where we have Jira epics and or safe features, depending on what your nomenclature is. Then we have an optional solution layer. So if you're building like airplane fuselages and have multiple lines of business within one profit and loss center, we've got that optional solution layer, and then we have what's really built around P&L centers at the budgetary portfolio layer, and then all the way up to enterprise strategy. And what Jira Align does is it marries strategic portfolio management, product management, and scale development all in one tool. But again, everyone's working down in Jira. So that's the nice part about the flexibility, is that your teams can still basically do what they're doing in Jira. There are some modifications that have to happen though when you set up the connector, and we can help you walk through that should you be interested in this product. This is one other way to look at all of the different hierarchies, which I really appreciate. We've got the people, the time, and the work. On the left in white, we've got people, teams, programs, solution trains, portfolios, and enterprise. In the middle in orange, we've got the work, tasks and stories and features on all the way up to long-term strategy. In the bottom in blue, we've got the time. And then over on the right, not listed on the left, in green are these business vectors that attach themselves to the work items. We've got budgets, we've got domains, we've got value streams, we've got OKRs, and we've got products, all of which provide different orthogonal slices to understand and connect to your data. A lot going on in this slide. All right, so what are the key features of Jira Align? Why would you want to get this tool? Well, number one, it provides really robust dependency management. Dependencies in Jira Align, which we're going to see later on in a live product demo, they are really fleshed out. They basically mimic real life dependencies in that it is a conversation. So somebody has a need, they request it of another team, the team agrees to that request and commits to it, and then the team delivers on that. And all the while, Jira Align is providing the framework for that communication and tracking it. It also has a program board, which is one of my favorite features in the tool. So if you're doing big room PI planning, it's got a great space that everyone can go to digitally see the connections of the features, when the features are going to be delivered, and which sprint you'll deliver them during this quarter. They have integrated roadmaps there, and at all layers of strategy, there are these rooms that are virtual places people can go to that have widgets of information that are relevant to what that layer of strategy needs to know. So for example, up in the strategy room, we've got company strategy and delivery towards company goals, delivery towards objectives, delivery towards strategy. In the program room, we have a link to the program board, but we also have the architectural runway for the program. We've got team dependencies, we've got team capacity. We can see if our teams are overloaded or not. And then we can see delivery throughout the PI. And they also have this really nice setup for OKRs. Again, you can create objective objects within the tool and then attach key results to them, and you can link those objectives to the various work items throughout your work hierarchy. What's new and what's coming? This slide's a little old, sorry about that. They retooled the strategy room a year ago. That one's old. The connector got redone. That one's a little old, but in the future, they're actually going to be, at least in my hope, I would say, reworking the entire platform to connect better to Atlassian. So I'm hoping that in the future, the connector will be less and less of a challenge for clients. They've added Trello integration through the Kanban board feature. They've added OKRs, they're rolling in AI, but most importantly, and not listed on the slide, is a new UI that is much more in line with the Atlassian ecosystem coming up. So you'll recognize like a top menu bar that's going to be much more contextually appropriate, color schemes, UI elements. It'll just be a more familiar and happy space for everybody once they land in it. How long does it take to implement Jira Align? It takes a while. we have a lot of clients that come to us and say, we really want to do this fast. And as good stewards of that, all we can say is you cannot do this fast. Jira Line is an enterprise tool, which means that you're affecting a whole lot more than just a few teams. I mean, not only are you affecting the way that some of your teams work, you're also affecting the way that your program managers work, you're affecting the way that your portfolio managers work, you're affecting the way that your strategy leaders are also working. I believe very strongly that first you hire the right people, then you build the right processes, then you roll the tools in place. And a lot of people think that this tool is going to solve the process problem. But in order to make the tool happen, you have to build the processes first. So a lot of this implementation involves making sure that the processes are in place to effectively use the tool. Otherwise, people are just going to bang into the corners of it and be really frustrated as you're rolling it out. So with that in mind, it takes about 3 months to roll out one program or agile release train. And that's with a fairly mature company. It can take longer if, if the company is less mature. And this is just for one program. Now, once that structure's in place, then it is easier to roll out more programs after that. So that first jump start, as we call it, you go through a planning and a discovery phase, you then configure, and then we do training. And then afterwards, we sit with you through your first PI planning with the tool to make sure everything's off and going well. Then afterwards, if you like that and everything's happy, then we expand to multiple other programs and help them through the same process, but those do go faster. And then finally, if you like all of that and you want to implement lean portfolio management, there's a setup to expand the way that you do portfolio management within the tool as well. And setting up budgetary guardrails, all that fun stuff that you learned about in SAFe training if you've been through that. So again, it takes a while. It's well worth it. And now let's go right into the tool. Let's see like a live demo of Jira Line. So there's always a danger in live demos that something will go wrong, but hopefully this one will work out just fine. Okay, so the very first thing you'll see when you land at the homepage of Jira Line is you've got this menu bar down the left, and you've got this navigation bar, or I'm sorry, you've got this navigation bar on the left and a context bar at the top. Again, this is all going to change in a couple of months, hopefully later on this year, but for now, this is the way the tool looks. So the important thing on the top to note is that whatever I'm looking at in the middle, and no matter what layer of scale I'm at, this context bar is controlling what data in the tool I'm showing. The left half of this and the right half of this menu are the same. They're just demonstrating it in different ways. I find the right half really easy to understand. I've got my whole enterprise, and then I've got my digital services portfolio. And then within that, I've got my AI program, and then I've got my different teams supporting that program. So right now I'm in the mobile program, which is under the digital services portfolio. And then there's multiple layers of this context bar. So over here, now I'm choosing the time snapshot that I want to look at. So I'm looking at PI5, which is our current program increment. And I'll be seeing all of the sprints within that PI. And I can select multiple other program increments as well. And then there's even additional configurations, like I can choose to narrow down to certain Jira fix versions or release vehicles as they're known in Jira Line. I can narrow down to certain features that are tagged for a given product. I can narrow down to certain org structures, and I can save these configurations to come back to them for ones that matter to me. Here's some other stuff going on up here too. There's an overall item search. There's a quick create menu. There's in-tool alerting, all that fun stuff as well. Going down the left side, we've got the different layers of scale here. And there's a lot happening over here, just to denote all that. At the very top, we've got our home button. Then we have information about our current user. We've got a search. This search is different than the far right search. It searches this menu. We've got saved places that we like to go in the tool. And then we start getting to our enterprise layers. So I've got enterprise strategy up at the top. If I click into that, you'll see all the things that I can get that relate to enterprise strategy. And it is a lot. And actually, some of these are all collapsed, so we can show even more. Then I've got the portfolio layer, which is the budgetary layer. I've got the optional solution layer. Most companies don't need that layer, by the way. I've got the program layer, which is where my team of teams are happening. And then I have a team layer, which may or may not be deprecated in the future. This is really, this is sort of a holdover from when this tool was a full stack tool. And now this functionality really should be done in Jira Align. That's sort of the intention behind everybody with the tool right now. And then we also have, I don't want to call it a layer, but a product center would be a good word for that, where we can see features and everything that is tagged for a given product, and we can see the various functionality for that. And then down here, we've got custom rooms that we can build around different company functions, and we've got a pretty robust set of reporting. Although I will say that despite all the reports in Jira Align, it is very common for people to need an additional reporting tool outside of it, such as Power BI, Tableau. And there's a data lake connection package that you can get when you roll out Jira Align. Speaking of that, when you're rolling it out, you really need a partner to go with. You don't have to, but really strongly recommend it because there's a lot of hand holding and there's a lot of just learning and training that has to happen. And so when you do go through a partner like XBM or any other solution partner that is qualified to do this, they're going to help you set all of this up. And then they're going to help you understand the nuances, the licensing, all of that stuff. All right, next, let's hop into the enterprise layer. So up here, I'm going to hop right into enterprise, and then I'm going to come all the way up to the enterprise strategy room, just to give you a context about what we're looking at. The first thing it's going to ask is, what is my strategic snapshot? You might be wondering why I need a specific narrowing of my strategy. Well, strategy only lasts for so many years, and so we're going to have different snapshots rolling as we go forward. Here we see our mission, vision, values. We see execution against outcomes. So we see the percentage of work for this strategic snapshot time period against all of our strategic goals, portfolio objectives, program objectives, and team objectives. Down here, we see a snapshot progress of actual percentage of work that we're trying to get done in the snapshot. So 63% of our features have been accepted by their product owners. 13% of the epics have been completed. None of our themes are yet finished. And then we see the whole pyramid here. This really shows the work hierarchy within the tool. And just so you know, a lot of these layers are optional. So depending on how deep and how wide your enterprise is, we can cut some of these layers out to make the tool a little more efficient for you. Then we have an OKR heat map down here that's showing a roll up of all of our OKRs and how we're doing against them. You can see with our data here, we're not doing so great. But these are all of our objectives and then reporting against the key results. And then we have an OKR tree down here where we can expand out into each of these, and we can see the owners, and we can see the key result progress as we're progressing. So that's just an example of one of the rooms. Let's look at the strategic backlog. And by the way, if you want a deeper dive into this tool, next week, my colleague, I believe it's Jason, is going to be doing it next week, although it might be Vicky. Either way, it's going to be a fantastic webinar. This time, next Thursday, there'll be a webinar very specifically diving into the nuances of this tool. I definitely recommend signing up. You can do that at xbm.com/events, I believe. Let's look at the backlog. This is just an example of one of the backlogs, one of the backlog views. And then here I can zoom into all of the work that is rolling into this particular strategy. So let's see what our budgetary epics are. Well, great. I've got virtualized sizing model. I can see the budget. I can see how we're doing. I can see different check-ins. I can re-rank these. And then I can add more columns to see what's going on with our execution against this. Let's hop down to the portfolio layer and let's look at, let's see what I want to look at first. Let's look at the portfolio backlog. So now we are looking at very specifically this current program increment or this quarter for most companies, I guess you'd call it. And I'm looking at this program of execution, and I can see all of the epics. These would be also called initiatives in some companies, basically above the team of teams layer. And this is the layer where we're attaching budgets to things. And so here I can see these epics that we are delivering against, and I can break those down into their constituent features. I can re-rank these features. And there's a lot of neat stuff going on in these different backlog layers. I can pull rank from the parent strategic themes. So I can rearrange all of my epics based on the theme priorities above. And then I can go in and set up priorities based on what's happening right now in this quarter. There's also a quick estimation function where I can drop a lot of high-level estimates into all of these epics and features as I go. And then there's different views too. So I can come here to a column view if I want to. And this is more of a traditional Kanban board. I'm sorry, not the column view. That's not true. I want to look at my state view. This will get me more of a traditional Kanban board view for the epics that I'm working on. So you can see sort of capacity that way. But also if I come to this column view where I just was, we can start to see loads versus actuals. So what we see here is when I click on actual, this is the story points that roll up to these given epics. And then estimate, which shows my data is not very good, is the high level top down t-shirt sizing estimation related to the story points. So I don't actually have any estimates in here, which is not good. But we can see that we're almost fully loaded for this program increment based on developer work breakdown alone. All right. Also, if I dive into an epic, can I hop in there? There we go. This is all the information we can attach to an epic, and there is a lot of it. One of my favorite parts is obviously just this main page details. We can break down the different program increments that this epic is going to be delivered across, and we can give different weighted shortest job first values. We can do different estimations. We can hop to the we can do an intake here. We can see design hypothesis here. We can break things down into time and skills. There's a finance tab that we can turn on that has budget related to everything. Let's see, maybe it's down here. No. Yeah, so there's just a lot of information that we can throw onto this epic for context as we're planning it. All right, let's look at the portfolio room for a moment, just to give an example of yet another room that people can gather around to get their work done. Oops. And here I need to come up and I need to select a portfolio. So again, that context bar matters. We've got 3 different tabs happening here in this room. Right now we're looking at the execution tab. So here's all of our epics getting done. This is our progress so far. Story points, capitalization models, progress graphs. We can hop over to the resource tab so we can see how we're doing for resource allocation throughout. If our themes are overloaded, then we can hop over to our financials tab to see all of that budgeting and how our epics and work spend are counting against our budgeting. So very high level view there. We're going to dive into this more in next week's webinar. Let's look at the program layer, which is probably my favorite layer in the tool. So if I come here and I click on what I want to go to first, the programs board, program board. This is probably the most useful view in the entire tool. I love this view. So what I'm looking at right now, let me just zoom in on one specific program, the mobile program. And what I see here is I've got all the teams making up my program going down the left side, making up those rows. And then as columns, I've got the different sprints in this current program increment. And then I have all the features and all of the dependencies and all of the objectives and all of the risks that relate to the execution of this program here in one view. This is where we can keep coming back throughout the execution of that particular quarter to see how we're doing. If I hover over things like these dependencies, you can see the features that those dependencies relate to. We can see that there are different planning issues here. In fact, if I come all the way to the top and click on this color wheel, we can see the very robust colorization of what's happening. They opted in their design not to do the spaghetti map that you would normally see during PI planning. And I like that. It makes the whole thing a lot cleaner. But here we can see that basically, as the status gets more and more red, there's more and more problems. So are there risks applied to this? Is there a scheduling issue? Is it blocked or missed? Is it an orphan? So everything you need to know contextually is right here against your execution. There's also some roadmaps we can look at. There's so much in this tool. And this is truly just scratching the surface today. So we've got program execution roadmaps. Right now, I'm looking at feature broken down by epic. So I've got my epic up here, and then I've got my features nested underneath. I can see milestones that we're achieving. I can see where we are. I've got this highlighting bar to show our percent. So this feature is 73% complete, estimating done very, very soon, although probably not actually going to get done. We can color this. We can save versions of this for presentations. A lot going on there. We showed actual versus estimate in the backlog earlier. Let's look at dependencies for just a moment before we move on. I love the dependency management here in this tool. So let me just grab any old dependency. And here we can see the workflow. This one's done, so all three of these bars are green, but basically we've got the dependency is created, but it has been asked, but it has not been committed to by the dependent team. It then gets committed to, and then the work gets done. And here we can have a description of that work. We can see if it's blocked by the requester or blocked by the respondent. Is the work done? We can tie it to the work being done. We can say it's needed by sprint 23, but it's also committed to maybe a different date. We can say the program increment that it's going to be done in, the feature that it relates to, who's requesting, who it depends on. And then there's even some dependency related graphs. You can call them maps. There's this wheel view that I find particularly impressive, where we can see sort of a, there we go, sort of a spaghetti landing of where all of our dependencies are team to team. So you can see that the Cowboys, the Washington, the Baltimore, and the Houston teams have a ton of dependencies coming in and out of them. So maybe over time, this might be a pretty good opportunity for us to look at our, oh, and also the Tiger team up here. Maybe we can look at our team layouts and our resource allocation and decide to rearrange these to make more cross-functional teams, so that we get less and less dependencies. This is not an ideal state. All right, jumping down to reports really quick. I'm just going to graze over this super fast. There are a ton of in the box budgetary reports. Let's go for. See if I can find this report by searching here. I'm not a huge fan of this search bar here. Maybe not. Let me come here. There we go. Investment versus spend. This is the nice report. Let me grab the right portfolio that I'm working on. So here we have PI funding, PI estimated spend, PI, and again, I've got the wrong size monitor for this, but you get the idea. We've got the spending against work items accepted. We've got per our epics. We've got our allocation, our investment and spend, and our work getting done. So just one example of a pretty complex report at the portfolio layer that's pretty helpful for budgetary planning. Lastly, I want to hop really quick into the administration panel and just show you some of the settings you can do here, specifically the platform terminology setting. So everything you see here may not match the words that your company uses to describe work and hierarchy, and that's okay. So if I come in here to, that's the problem with live demos. Sometimes things go wrong. Platform terminology. Well, that's frustrating. All right. Well, we'll figure out why that is in the future. But basically, platform terminology, and again, it'll be the monitor. I'm not used to doing this on such a small screen. There we go. Oh, yeah. Just had to shrink it down. Yay, UI. That's what's getting fixed in the next couple of releases. So this takes every object within the entire software and allows you to rename it and give it a description here. So for example, if you don't like the word epic, maybe it's an initiative in your company, no problem. You can change that nomenclature across the whole tool right here. That's just one example of one of the deep settings available in this tool. Okay, that was a lot for Jira Align. Now I want to talk about advanced roadmaps, and we're going to do a live demo of that in a moment. Before I do that, I want to talk very, very briefly about the services that our company offers in case these tools are of interest to you guys. So one of those services, we really specialize in training. So we do public and private training. We do custom curricula for that. We do things like Jira Bootcamp for administrators. We've got a Jira Service Management Bootcamp. It's like a one-day intensive deep dive into the settings of that. We do end user training. We do custom training on the tools that you're looking at today, such as advanced roadmaps. Basically, anything in the Atlassian ecosystem, if you want administrator training or user training, we can build it for you and deliver that. We also do consulting. So things such as implementations, migrations, upgrades. If you've got a really interesting business problem, we can help you apply Atlassian solutions to that business problem. We can do that also because we are a Platinum Solution Partner, which is the highest level of partner tier. Additionally, we also have a sister company called Oasis Digital that does custom development. So our model is always do it in the tool. If you can't do it in the tool, find an ecosystem supported add-on. And if you can't do that, we've got a whole slew of really excellent developers that can build custom integrations, custom applications for you to tie all of your business systems together. Our company tagline is unifying Atlassian across your enterprise. So exactly applies to that. All right, let's hop into advanced roadmaps, which is Atlassian's other rolled in solution for portfolio management. And I love this tool. I started on this tool. I really, really like it. If you remember back when it was called Portfolio for Jira, it has changed immensely since then. So what is the positioning and value of advanced roadmaps? Well, this is for growing agile organizations that need visibility, shared focus, and accurate delivery. And really quick, let me just reinforce, we are totally changing hats, looking at a very different product that is built into Atlassian tools already. You can use this right now if you're on Data Center or if you're on Jira Cloud Premium. It's right there ready to go. It's free effectively for that. So anyway, just to help refocus the rest of the webinar. Advanced roadmaps is also for planning across multiple teams. So if you're used to Jira software and the simple roadmap feature that comes with a Jira software board, those are limited to a single project and therefore probably a single team. But advanced roadmaps goes across multiple teams. It's really useful for helping keeping stakeholders informed. Obviously, whenever you've got live updates in the tool that are always accurate, and you can point stakeholders to those live updates, you've just eliminated the need for lots of standing meetings, which makes life a lot better for everybody. It also allows you to create a custom hierarchy within Jira above a Jira epic. So you can create additional layers of scale above that, such as initiative and strategic theme and whatever, sky's the limit. Lastly, this helps you communicate the bigger picture to your teams. So when you can show people the roll-up of work that they do towards your epic, towards your initiatives and towards your strategic themes, everybody wins because they all know why they're doing the work that they're doing. Let's talk about the key features of advanced roadmaps. All right, number one, we can get you a product level roadmap in this tool. You can make multiple different roadmaps and you can focus them on different inputs. So that alone is a very, very powerful feature. But basically, in the end, this is just another way to visualize your data in Jira and to roll it up to multiple layers of scale. It provides better visualization. It provides a team level capacity planning element. There is also team level auto scheduling of work that takes things like rank and velocity and team capacity and release schedule and gives you a suggested rollout based on an algorithm. And lastly, it provides much more visual dependency management. So if you're used to just linking things within Jira, this has a whole dependency map feature that makes it really easy to see what's going on. What's new and coming? Well, this is now officially rolled out into Cloud Premium and Cloud Enterprise. It's also in Data Center in the box. You cannot get this product otherwise. It is no longer available as an add-on. They did some improved sprint management where you can do future sprint velocity adjustments, improved capacity management. They dropped in a Confluence macro about a year ago, which is just great. I love reporting in Confluence in addition to Jira, specifically because you can do a lot of controlling the message over in Confluence. You can give everything much better context. And lastly, that dependency map that I just mentioned. So compared to advanced roadmaps, compared to Jira Align, an advanced roadmaps implementation is much faster. Basically, we like to start by saying, and basically workshopping with your teams, what decisions do you need to make? What do you need to see to make those decisions? What's the process through which you get that information? And then what is the Jira structure to support that process? And then we work backwards. We update your Jira, we build in that process, we deliver the views that you need, and then you can go back and make the decisions. We find it takes about a month to roll out with 1 or 2 teams. And usually it's just a lot of training, specifically because once you're trained, as that proverb goes, teach someone to fish. So that is our company motto as well. We would much rather that you learn how to fish and use these tools on your own, because then you'll probably come back with even more exciting projects for us. And then after you roll it out with a pilot team, I think the sky's the limit. We can expand to all teams, all programs. But in the end, I think it just takes somebody guiding you through it the first time to really get off and going with this tool. Product demo. Let's dive right into the tool. Let's do another live demo and hopefully nothing will go wrong. All right, so this is advanced roadmaps. My screen is small and there's a lot of data on here, so I'm going to kind of explain all this as I go through. So first of all, you get here, this is Jira Cloud, by the way. You get here under the plan section, and then you can choose whatever plan you're on. Basically, each roadmap is called a plan, and a plan has a scope of Jira data brought into it. So in this situation, I am bringing in data from 3 different team projects, Team Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, I think. And I'm also bringing in data from a program level epics project and a portfolio level initiatives project. And let me just talk about the different views that we have going on here. So up in the top section, we have a control of what we're seeing. So I can choose multiple saved views based on the data that's coming into this plan. And this is the view control that I'm saving up here. I can choose data to filter on. So right now, based on those 5 Jira projects that I'm bringing in, I'm looking at the initiative layer down to the epic layer, but I can go all the way down to story and subtask layer if I want to. And then I can choose to filter on certain issues within that. I can filter just on certain issue types. I can include or exclude things. And then different custom fields that I'm bringing in as well. And so all of that controls what I'm seeing over here in the scope view. So what we're seeing here is an initiative, which is a new layer of hierarchy that advanced roadmaps allowed us to build in Jira. It's just a new issue type that has a parent level above an epic. And then these break down into epics. And then over here, I've got data that I can associate with that. So I've got a target start date and a target end date for these initiatives. And same for their child epics. And what's going on here actually is these dates are getting rolled up from the stories feeding those epics. I can see the status of all of this information here. I've got a WSJIF scoring system if I want to, latest shortest job first. I've got a swag estimate. So this one's a medium taking 12 team weeks. This is a large taking 52 team weeks. I can tag things by product if I want to. I can tag things as an MVP, which I think is great for providing context. And then let me just shrink some of these because again, small screen. This is really great on a wide monitor. And then I've got a progress roll up. So this is showing against, let's say, initiative 2 here. I've got a roll up of all that initiative's direct children. So 29% are still in to do, 57 are in progress, 14% are done. And then we can even see those children's roll up down here in this progress bar. This progress bar specifically is by issue count. We could also do it by story points if we wanted to. And then over here, I've got the roadmap view. And specifically, I've chosen to color this view by status category. So we've got done in green, we've got in progress in blue, and then we've got left to do in gray. And there's a lot of different things happening here. One, if it's solid, that means it's got solid dates on the roadmap. If it's got this barber pole striping, that means the dates are being rolled up from the children. And if it has a solid start and a fuzzy end or a faded end, that means that one of those dates is set and the other one does not have an end date. And I can control all of that in the view settings over here. I can color by things other than status. I could color by label, for example, and now I can give status context to my report because I've added a label that I called red and I matched that to a red color. So I can say that this initiative is red, this initiative is green. Let's have a conversation during our status meeting about that. Let me clear that and go back to color by status. There we go. I can also choose to group by certain things. I can use different dependency styles. I can choose to roll up dates and roll up other things. And we've already seen the example of the date roll up there. This can be shrunk down so I can get looking at initiatives and epics. Let's look at a different view that I've saved. This one is going to be called epic planning. This view is going to be used by people like my program managers and my product owners. So now we're looking at epics down to stories, and we're ignoring the parent initiatives, kind of. So I've got my epics here, and then I have their parent initiative listed here just for reference, so I know what's going on. I've got the target start, target end date again. I've got my status. I've got my WSGIF settings, which I actually had values for that somewhere. Oh well. Actually, we've got a video on YouTube showing how to do WSGIF using automation for Jira. If you're interested, I think it's like YouTube. Look up the XBM channel and then search WSGIF WSJF, and you'll find how to make that automated calculation here. Then in this particular view, I've included story points, which are also getting rolled up to the epic, which is kind of nice. And then I can see incoming dependencies, outgoing dependencies, and what release all of this work is in. So let me shrink down those fields for a second and show you some more dependency stuff here. So here I see that I've got this story is dependent on this story, and the dependency line is red because there's a sequencing problem. They're both scheduled in the same sprint, but one of them has to be done before the other. A different way to view these dependencies is to come to a whole different view and look at the dependencies report. I love this report. Let me fit that in. There we go. So this report is showing me all of my dependencies in sequence to kind of help me understand critical path. It's not quite critical path, but we can see if there's problems. Like down here, I see that alpha is blocking Charlie, is blocking alpha again. And there's a lot being blocked by Team Charlie. And so I need to make sure that basically that I'm watching these two dependencies so I can enable the rest of everything going on here. And here I can see that these two guys are out of sequence, blocked by minus 14 days. I can also group this by team too, actually, so then I can get a better view of Team Alpha's work versus Team Charlie's work. And that's how I know that I really got to watch this dependency right here and make sure it happens. Coming back up to epic planning, what I could do is I could just go ahead and rearrange these right here. And then you see that that resolves itself. Now, something to note is when I made that change, if I expand my fields, you'll see that my target start and target end got a little green flag over here. And now they have fixed dates as opposed to inheriting them from the sprints that they were in. So this is actually not a best practice what I just did, dragging that around. There's a better way by reassigning the sprints. But what I wanted to point out is that that change got saved up here under review changes. And so until I push those changes back to Jira, like at the end of my planning meeting, those changes are just in this plan only. And once I push them, it'll write back to the specific Jira issues. So you've got this nice planning sandbox that you're in when you're using advanced roadmaps. Additionally, I'm working on one particular scenario. That's my best case scenario. If I switch to what I've called my worst case scenario, and if I make a change in this view, like let's say that let's say they clear some dates on this epic. Now I'm being flagged in red. And now I can choose if I want to push my red scenario or my green scenario. So that's a very, very powerful feature too, in my opinion. Lastly, let's go down and look at the team level view that I've set up. Not lastly, there's some more that I want to show you, but anyway, let's look at the capacity planning view. So this view, and first let me discard my changes that I made fixing that dependency earlier, because I want to show you the right way to do that here. So here, same data, but this time I'm choosing to just look at the story level, and also this time I am grouping by team. So all of the work assigned to a given team is being chunked right here. And then at the top of that team view, I've got my different sprints. And I can see a couple of problems here. This sprint is overloaded. So what I can do is I can move, let's see, it's overloaded by, let's click on that. It's 110%. It is 3 story points over. Okay. Oh my gosh, look at this. This is new too. They have now added all of this information here, where you can see sprint-based capacity, the type of work in the sprint, the epics that are being delivered as parents of the sprint, the overall status. This just keeps getting better. I'm really happy with Atlassian rolling out things. So I see that I've got 3 points overloaded. Okay, so I can come and I can find a 3-point story that I could theoretically move into future sprint. I'm going to move that into Alpha Sprint 2, and bam, my little bar goes to green. Everyone's happy. Now let's say coming up in April, I know that there's going to be a big vacation and I'm going to lose half of my team. I can go ahead and set my team's future capacity to 15 story points instead in this scenario. And then make sure that I don't overload that particular sprint. And also we can see our dependency issues here. And this is where I would really want to fix that red dependency. I would move this one back to maybe, let's say, sprint 2. Now my dependency is fixed. I still have a problem with an overloaded sprint 3. I'll need to look at that later. Lastly, also we can mark releases on our timeline, and they will go green or red whether or not you have all of the work done before that release deadline or not. All right, other really cool things that you can do with advanced roadmaps. You can share this information, which is probably the most powerful part of this and one of the most important. So all of the views that I've done, I can share and I can save them. So I could save this view, but I won't because I like the way that this view is configured. And I can also do things like I can turn off warnings on a given view if I want to. I can change the way that I color things. And once I have that view saved and I like it, let's see right here. Yeah, so here I can show warnings or not. I can also filter issues with warnings. Maybe I don't want to show warnings when I'm sharing this view with my executives. No problem. I can just hide the warnings. And then I have, I've got this little share button over here, and I can share it in multiple ways. I can share via CSV export. I can share as a Confluence link, which I'll show in a minute. I can embed it in an iframe, or I can just share a link to this plan. So let me come up to, let's say, the epic planning view. I have this view a lot. So I'm going to share this view. And again, all the settings that went into making this view are baked into this right here in this multi-character addition at the end, GHOJ3. I'm going to copy that, open it in a new tab. And now I have a read-only view, as soon as it loads, of this particular part of my plan. Now the viewer can come and they can update the view settings if they want to. They can choose to roll up things, they can hide the lines, they can color by new things. They can shrink and expand, they can look at different fields, they can sort by fields if they want to. They could sort by target start, target end, or whatever they want to do. Um, Hide things in here, etc. But it's all read only, and the next time they come in here, it'll reset. But my favorite way to share, again, is over in Confluence. We just hop into that and show a quick example. I hope I'm remembering everything to talk to you guys about today, because this is just a fantastic tool. Let's see how to set up a plan, capacity. Yeah, so far we're good. So if I come to, let's see, let's go to marketing. I've got a marketing example of marketing projects, and I've got a project dashboard here. If I come down here, I've got a roadmap saved in here somewhere. There we go. So this is an example of the Confluence roadmap. Let me just collapse that sidebar. So this is an actual roadmap living over in Jira. And you can see there's a lot of warnings on this one, but I can come in and I can manipulate this enough to understand where things are. And there's a legend to tell me what the issue types are in this, if I'm on track or off track, what the coloring means. And so I can drop this information right in Confluence along with everything else. Advanced Roadmaps respects permissions within Jira. So if I don't have permission to see this marketing project, even though I'm looking at this macro, I'm not going to see the data. So you need to keep that in mind as you're setting all this up. Oh, one other thing too that I want to show you is ranking can also be done within this too. So I can re-rank stuff up and down within my roadmap as well. And there's a lot of other just handy features for moving data around in here that are just fantastic. Whew, okay, that is a lot of information. Let me hop to the end of the presentation so we can close up and then go to Q&A. So before I go to Q&A, I'm going to close officially and say thank you so much for attending. I really hope you got a lot out of this webinar. If you would like to get more or have any questions, please feel free to email me, brian.dar@xbm.com, Brian with a Y, or you can also grab that LinkedIn QR code there and find me on LinkedIn, send a message through that channel if you'd like, whatever's more comfortable for you. And then also, if you liked this webinar, there are more webinars coming up. Specifically next week, I talked about, oh, it's not next week. Oh, our scheduling is different. It looks like next week is actually Introduction to Confluence, so sorry about that. The one specifically about Jira Align isn't until March 17th. That's probably just a scheduling fluke, but normally they come jointly week to week. So next week we've got an Introduction to Confluence webinar. Then we have a paid Jira Bootcamp 24th through 26th. It's a 3-day intensive training camp all about how to administer Jira. We've got a Confluence Bootcamp. We've got an Atlassian for business teams, so work management for all webinar coming up on January 27th. That's the webinar that I do. We've got an Atlassian governance webinar. We've got a webinar about how to migrate to Atlassian Cloud if you're on server, which is getting end of life next month, or at least more stuff is happening next month with it. We've got a Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar and a Jira Service Management specifically for ITSM webinar right after that. And then the cycle repeats. So lots of interesting events for you to check out, xbm.com. Feel free to contact me. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for your kind attention. I know that your time is very valuable. I hope you got a lot out of this webinar. Lastly, let's do Q&A. So if there's no questions, have a happy lunch, but let's go check that out and see what might have shown up. Hey, nothing so far. Great. Well, I'll wait about 30 seconds in case anybody has any questions, and otherwise, thank you again very much for attending. Let's see. Nothing yet. hopefully that means that I explained everything really, really well. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you in another webinar, in a class, or by. Oh, here. Hey, I actually got a question. Yeah. All right. How do you convert multiple PI plans to a roadmap in Jira Align? Multiple PI plans. I'm not sure what you mean by a PI plan. Basically the roadmap in Jira Align feeds off the data already existing within Jira Align. So depending on what you're talking about with PI plans, like I'm guessing you mean multiple program boards. But anyway, all the data is tied in. So if you go to the roadmap module within Jira Align, it should just be reading the data that you're also looking at within your PI planning anyway. So it's just sort of automatic. Here's one live answered question. All right. Well, thank you guys again for attending. Hope to see you again in the future and have a great day and a good weekend. Bye, everyone.